Welcome back to the little house. I don't know about you, but here at CMEC Press, we love books. But for me, it wasn't until my mid-20s when I first entered a library. And it was like that moment from the movie Journey to the Mysterious Island, you know, the one with the rock. They crash landed on the planet, it's all dark and dreary, and then they walk through this little cave and it opens up into this world full of imagination and adventure and intrigue and danger. That's what it was like for me. It was so amazing. And where does the love of books begin? In the picture book section, of course. I probably look quite ridiculous sitting down with a stack of 30 to 40 books, excitedly looking through them, but I didn't care. It was amazing. So I thought today it would be fun to take a look at Frog's bookcase. Let's get a closer look, shall we? So before we jump into books, I just wanted to show you the bookcase itself. I found this on Amazon. It was just plain wood when I purchased it. I like to get plain wood when I'm working with miniatures, that way I can customize it the way that I would like. So for this, I put wallpaper in the back, which I found a really neat design that I liked on Canva and just scaled it down to the right size. I thought that it would make my life easier if I peeled apart this back panel and just put the wallpaper on in one solid piece, but this thing is so well put together, it was completely starting to kind of pull off this inner piece, and yeah, it was terrible. So I stopped and put it back together. I made it so that it was distressed looking and kind of old. I sanded the corners because I didn't really want any sharp edges. I really wanted it to look like it's kind of been through its paces, I suppose. So there you go. There is the bookcase. Now let's move on to the books. Here it is. This is where the love of reading began for me and SAMEC number 1 and SAMEC number 2. I put together a reading list for picture books, middle school, and beyond, and when I brought home the picture books, SAMEC number 1 and number 2, even though in their late teens, actually sat down with these books and read through them, and we had laughs and talked about memories. So books truly do have power. It's so amazing to be able to share these times together with family and friends. So here is some of the picture books that I made. I would have loved to make all of them, but the bookcase wouldn't have held them all, and it would have been a lot more time consuming. So here I did the Hungry Caterpillar, and I used watercolor paper. I kind of did a little color inside just to make it a little more fun. I would like to go back through and make it readable, but since this was my first attempt, I didn't want to drive myself crazy. I wanted to keep it kind of simple. I purchased Glossy sticker paper and just cut the pieces and then just simply stuck it to the paper inside, which I think turned out really well, as long as you have a paper cutter that actually cuts straight. I found out that ours does not when I was doing a little more of the intricate cutting. So you'll see more of that in the following books. So here's a sample of our picture books. Let's move on to the middle school. Here is our late elementary, middle school age books. I kind of cheated here again as well. I found these little books on Amazon, which are actually really well made. I'm very impressed with them. So I used a program, same program I used for the picture books called Canva, and I was able to shrink down the cover, and the same process, I used the sticky glossy paper. Oops, let me stay down here so it stays in focus. And I simply just attached it to the cover, and that's it. I know I really love bookbinding and I enjoy it, but since there was so many, and again, this was my first time, I wanted to kind of keep it simple. One thing I did notice that the black, like this is Refugee, the cover of Refugee is black, it just wiped off. And I have an inkjet printer, and I made sure my hands were dry, I let it dry completely, I did all the troubleshooting, but it still just would wipe off. So for those, I used the non-glossy sticker paper, like the Westing Game is a straight black book. So that held out well. But see here, you'll see how my paper cutter did not cut straight. So I do need to go back through these and make some corrections, but that'll be for a very cold and rainy week. Another tip that I would share, learning from my mistakes, as it were, is maybe a little Mod Podge, because they do, the ink will wear off. Some of these held up really, really well, but if there's any dark ink then it really just doesn't do well. Here's another one, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. It's got a lot of darker colors and it just totally kind of wore off. So a little tip there. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So here are some of Frog's favorite books. You can see that he loves clean Regency romance, much like myself. Our favorite authors are Jane Austen. We also love Mark Twain, which is not Regency romance, and he also didn't like Jane Austen, which was interesting. And Jules Verne, just a little side stuff there. So here you will see that this was really, really off. This is an example of my very, very crooked paper cutter. So yeah, some of these definitely just really need to kind of be put aside, I think. Another example, Sophia Holloway's King's Castle has a dark cover, and you'll see it's kind of worn down. But again, I was able to use the non-glossy paper for To Kill a Mockingbird, which has a very dark cover, and that held up very well too. So, and I like the look of both, so it's nice to have a mix. So here are some of those, and then I'll show you a little bit of a close-up of the book binding that I did as well. So here's an example of my book binding. This is the Ledger from 3 Mile Studio. This was my first attempt, and I did use cardboard that was way too thick. I mean, I can open it, but it's like, it's really difficult and it doesn't stay open. I need to fill in some of the numbers, but I think I definitely want to redo this one before I do so. Looks like a mouse has been chewing on that. Then in the kitchen, you noticed Frog's Family Recipes. This was really fun to put together. I was able to just put the pages together, then hot glue the seam. I didn't use any actual bookbinding thread in this one, but you can actually flip through and see some of the recipes and family dishes. So I think that was fun. That turned out really cute. The other is the Captain's Log. This is like the family album. I did the same thing with the paper and then hot gluing. And you can see Frog's first steps. Oh, isn't he so cute? And his first rainy day. And I think the next one is his first hop. Yep. So this is filled, and then later on it goes into some of his adventures as a captain. So yeah, that was fun. So that's a tour of his bookcase. I hope you enjoyed and learned from some of my mistakes along the way. All right, until next time.